Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 854. Confession. Early morning, 160 Beauclun Street. After Klein got out of bed and washed up, he didn't rush to leave the bathroom. He took 4 steps counterclockwise and headed above the gray fog. He then conjured the world Gehrman Sparrow and made the fake person pray piously. Honorable Mr. Fool, please pass on the message to Danitz. I need him to provide me information on West Balham. It's best if he includes his social connections. Also, get him to be careful of the Church of Evernight for the time being. Above the Golden Dream, Danitz, who saw the sun earlier than Backlund, was holding a cup of malt beer as he sat in the shadows, hiding away from the vile sunlight. Lessons will begin in another 15 minutes. Captain said that a treasure hunter must have a sufficiently good grasp of mathematics. Sigh, this is really such a headache, but it's also something to look forward to. Dog ****. Danitz placed one hand on his knee as he downed a mouthful of beer. At this moment, the gray fog emanated in front of him. The blurry figure that looked down from above appeared as Danitz's ears resounded with Gehrman Sparrow's voice. Information on West Balham? Although we've been there to search for lost ancient treasure and got to know a few tribal natives, that is pretty much it. There won't be much that I can tell him about. This is so troublesome. I'll have to do all sorts of work. Again. Why does Gehrman Sparrow get involved in so many things? Danitz silently grumbled as he vigilantly glanced to his sides, afraid that the madman would suddenly appear. He drew a breath upon considering how he wanted to become stronger. He didn't wish to be of no help when his captain met with danger, having to shamefully hide at the back. Danitz slapped his face a few times with his free hand before standing up. He immediately left the shadows and found Iron Skin and Barrel. He asked them in detail about West Balham's situation and who he should ask for the various matters, only to obtain a unanimous answer. Captain Edwina Edwards, or Anderson Hood, who previously joined our bonfire on the ship. Will she be suspicious if I directly ask Captain, making her believe that I have a secret and am secretly working for someone else? But I've no idea where that fellow, Anderson, has gone to. Dog ****. Danitz fell into a dilemma as he couldn't help but think about something else, recalling Gehrman Sparrow's last words. Be careful of the Church of Evernight. Danitz wasn't a fool. He knew that a matter that the crazy adventurer emphasized was something important. It also meant that he believed that he had a high chance of being an important target of the Church of Evernight. He would be wildly pursued by the Red Gloves. Apart from the Church of Evernight, the Church of Storms and the military are targeting me as well. It's said that they have each sent a squad. Danitz thought as his heart palpitated. He soon revealed a puzzled and bitter look as he muttered to himself. But I haven't done anything. After passing the message about gathering information on West Balham to Admiral of Stars Katla, Klein left the area above the gray fog and returned to the real world. Like every other day, he had his breakfast and had lessons. After he woke up from his afternoon nap, with Richardson's help, he changed into a formal suit for an excursion. He got into the carriage that had already been waiting for him at the door. Head to St. Samuel Cathedral. Klein leaned on the carriage wall as he instructed the carriage driver. He had decided to continue maintaining his identity as Dwayne Dante S. He believed that it was best if he didn't change his former persona. Therefore, he couldn't change the frequency of his trips to St. Samuel Cathedral. Nor could he donate less. Besides, this can effectively wipe away any suspicion they have of me. After all, it's hard to imagine that the criminal who infiltrated Cheney's Gate hadn't stayed behind but would saunter into the cathedral as though nothing had happened. I'll have to thank Emperor Roselle for not plagiarizing criminal psychology. He didn't point out that intelligent criminals often return to their crime scene to admire their work and the helpless response of others. Klein mumbled inwardly as he took a sip of the black tea that Richardson had brewed. After moistening his throat, he glanced at his valet and asked, seemingly casually, "What is your deepest impression of East and West Balham?" Sitting beside him, Richardson didn't ask why. After some thought, he said, "East Balham is safer. West Balham is more chaotic." After giving a simple answer, Richardson turned to look at his employer, only to see Dwayne Dantes with his eyes half closed as though he wanted him to continue. Richardson scratched his ear and deliberated over his words. There's also poverty, hunger, and whip abuse. People from East and West Balham originally worshipped death. Later, due to the perks of believing in the deities like the goddess, Lord of Storms, and the eternal blazing sun, allowing them to boost their statuses and receive protection from the cathedral, there was a large-scale change of faith. However, as the number of believers increased, that special status was quickly removed. The people of the lower class began worshipping death again in secret. It's more obvious for the more messy West Balham in regards to this point. The descendants of death often receive a great deal of support. This is what my father of mine occasionally mentions after he's drunk. Klein listened in silence and didn't stop his valet's recount, nor did he probe deeper. Soon, the carriage arrived outside St. Samuel Cathedral. Klein first took in the sight of the white flying pigeons before entering the prayer hall. He took off his hat and handed it together with his cane to Richardson. He randomly found a seat and looked at the altar in the darkness. He watched the stars and the dark sacred emblem as unease, embarrassment, and a lack of confidence arose in him. If he had guessed correctly, ever since he made contact with the holy sword and made a vow, the goddess had likely taken notice of him. Every time he entered the cathedral to pretend like he was praying, it had the feeling like the emperor's new clothes. I wonder what the goddess's opinion on this is. And what position is the church taking? I'll probe first. Klein clasped his hands and held it to his nose, looking as though he was praying seriously. After about 8 minutes, he slowly got up, walked to the donation box, took out £50, and piously threw it in. After doing that, Klein turned to the confessional along the sides of the hall and entered. Unlike most ancient confessionals, which were big wooden crates with 2 doors, the modern confessional was an independent, spacious compartment. The confessor and the listening bishop were separated by a wooden partition, with each one of them having their seats. Using the dim light, Klein sat on the chair and listened to the bishop say with his mellow voice, "Do you have something you would like to say? The goddess cares about all her believers." Klein raised his right hand and tapped his chest 4 times in a clockwise fashion. "Praise the Lady. I wish to confess that 2 days ago, the military came to me, wishing that I can sell a batch of firearms and cannons to West Balham, to add coal to the chaos there." After he said that, the bishop on the other side didn't immediately give him an answer, as though he was alarmed by the arms dealing. He was momentarily unsure as to how to organize his words. The confessional instantly ended up being wrapped in an awkward silence. "You became frightened just from that? Have you never encountered a confessor as frank as me? If I were to say that I'm currently plotting the murder of a demigod while hiding from the mother tree of desire and the true creator, wouldn't you be jumping up?" Klein lampooned as he continued. "I did enjoy the adventurer's life when I was young. I obtained my wealth through metal, blood, and fire. But I'm already sick of that life. I only wish for a peaceful future. I originally wanted to decline the offer, but I'm unable to overcome the greed in my heart. This is a sufficiently enticing business, and it helps me in obtaining a firm footing in Backland's high society. I confess that I ultimately chose the bustle and chaos." The bishop on the other side finally had a response as he said with a gentle voice, "Don't be afraid. Don't waver. You don't have to feel guilt for a certain level of greed. As long as you don't harm the innocent or commit any of the crimes as written in the Bible. Go, follow your inner heart and make the choice you wish to make the most. Only this way can you truly understand the teachings and understand the truth of those words. There's no need to be put in a difficult position. Remember this. No matter what you do, sincerely being contrite and penitent is worthy of praise and forgiveness. May the goddess bless you. Praise the Lady." Klein drew the crimson moon once again on his chest. His visit to St. Samuel Cathedral was to use the opportunity of a confession to inform the church of his intentions of engaging in arms dealing. He wanted to know their reaction, so as to pry into the goddess's attitude towards him. Without saying anything extra, Klein slowly got up and left the confessional. He walked down the aisle and went towards his valet, Richardson. At this moment, he saw a lady sitting in the corner of the prayer hall. She was wearing a hooded black robe, with blue eyeshadow and blush. She had quite an uncanny sense of beauty. She was none other than spirit medium Daly Simone. Daly looked up and similarly noticed Dwayne Dantes. Her expression momentarily turned adrift as though she had fallen asleep while praying and had entered a dream. Klein nodded at her indiscernibly as a polite gesture. Then, he took his hat and cane from Richardson as he unhurriedly walked out of the hall. Daly retracted her gaze as she looked down at the pew in front of her before slowly closing her eyes. Walking out St. Samuel Cathedral, Klein stood by the side of the staircase and paused for 2 seconds. The white pigeon suddenly flew up in the square up ahead, blocking the sights of all who were taking in the scene. Less than 30 minutes later, in the basement, Leonard heard that Dwayne Dantes, who had previously been investigated, was about to cooperate with the officials. He was going to be a merchant who would sell arms to West Balham. What is he trying to do? Leonard frowned, little by little, completely at a loss as to what the undying monster's thoughts were.